Dragon Ball Super. It's the direct sequel to the beloved Dragon Ball Z series that most millennials like myself grew up on, and a great excuse to act like GT never existed. When DBZ first hit the US shores, it was the perfect gateway drug into this mysterious Japanese form of animation called anime, considering most of us were too ignorant to know that things like Pokemon were also considered anime. But since its heyday, I've fallen out of love with this series, mainly because I've evolved as a person, but it felt like the show didn't. For those of you unaware, Goku's arc in Dragon Ball Z was supposed to end at the Frieza saga. That's why things peaked in the Cell saga and then just fell apart in the Buu saga. Gohan was supposed to take the torch, but Toriyama didn't expect so much success and they didn't know what to do with the series. The Buu saga has its moments, but it also introduced a lot of the core issues with the series that still plague it to this day. Those issues include turning a lot of the Z Warriors into jokes and then relying on power scaling for a select few characters to defeat new enemies instead of relying on teamwork and technique like the old Dragon Ball. When it comes to Super, I enjoyed the Tournament of Power, but Super has suffered from inconsistent animation quality and writing. That being said, I still stand outside the club to keep my eye on what's going on with it. This is the godfather of anime, and whenever a new film comes to the theaters, I have to support the culture because I want to see more of it in the theaters. I saw the Broly film. I thought it was decent, but it was a bit mind-numbing, and now I've recently showed up to support Dragon Ball Super Superhero, and I'm here to report that I enjoyed this film more than the Broly film. Yeah, deal with it. Now, that doesn't mean it's not without its issues, but I like that they took some risks with this movie, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But before we do, I'd like to preface this by warning you that I will be talking about minor spoilers to further articulate how I feel about this movie. Nothing too crazy, but I do need to be able to give some type of context when talking about this film. So if you haven't seen it and you care about minor spoilers, please take your leave of absence, go see the film, then come back to this video. Before you do, hit the like button and turn on all notifications. Now let's get back to the risks. I said that this film took risks, but there was one that I didn't enjoy, and that was the art style. Superhero uses this new CG animated style that a lot of anime has been using recently, and in my opinion, it just doesn't look good. It looks like one of those cheap anime knockoff shows that you can find on Netflix like Knights of Sidonia. If you've never heard of it, there's a reason why. It's actually in the title. Most of you don't know that Knight in Knights of Sidonia is a double entendre because if you watch it, it'll make you go night-night. Seriously, F that show. Jokes aside, I prefer the more traditional art style. From my understanding, it's cheaper to go with this CG look and it's less time consuming to produce, but come on, this is Dragon Ball. We've got to do better if it's our goal to grow the art form. What this film does do better though is it shows love to the other Z Warriors. Dragon Ball has become the Goku show, and as much as I love Goku, being one-dimensional is never a good thing. Too much of anything never leads to anything good. You eat too much, you get fat. You don't read enough, you become ignorant. You play too many Sonic games and you end up screeching on the internet like this kid.
Okay, that is it!
Lucky for us, this film kicks off with Goku and Vegeta training on Whis and Beerus' planet alongside their new glue-eating friend Broly. While they're away, Earth is under attack by a new set of androids and it's up to the rest of the Z Warriors to save the day. I love this aspect of the movie because it allowed so many characters Toriyama has neglected to finally shine. Judge me all you want, but I love Black Clover. Yes, Asta is not the best protagonist, but his supporting cast from the rest of the Clover Kingdom is so strong, it hard carries the show. It's fun to watch all of the Magic Knights from the various clans fight alongside one another, interact, and grow strong together. Superhero finally allows this to happen, and not only does it let it happen, but this film low-key felt like an apology to Dragon Ball fans who wanted to see Gohan take the helm. I was sitting in the theater the entire time thinking, yes, Gohan still got that dog in him. Superhero is the Piccolo and Gohan show, and I loved every second of it. The only thing I didn't like was Gohan became a deadbeat dad just like Goku. I mean, why is Piccolo training Pan? Pan is cute as hell in this movie, don't get me wrong, but why wouldn't Gohan want to spend time with his daughter? They had this man researching ants instead of picking up his daughter from preschool, and I'd argue that's worse than Goku, and he's repeating the cycle. At least Goku somewhat had a valid reason of why he became a deadbeat dad. He was too busy training to save the universe since a young age, and he had to do it time and time again. Gohan is just sitting in the house hoping some fire ants crawl up his ass, and thank God they did in the form of Pan being kidnapped because it lit a fire up his ass to start fighting again. In terms of the fighting scenes, one thing that stood out to me is that I really love the use of other fighting styles in this movie. Often Dragon Ball characters just throw hands, and we love that, don't get it twisted, but wrestling had a heavy influence in this movie. There was a lot of high-flying slamming going on in this film, and it was beautifully animated, and you could just really feel the impact. The soundtrack was on point too. There was a really good use of eerie sounding music during fight scenes that reminded me of Mass Effect's soundtrack, and I know it sounds like those two don't mesh well together, but somehow it did. There's a healthy amount of humor in this film as well. Some of it is hit or miss. Some of the jokes, they stuck their landing, like how Bulma was using the Dragon Balls to get a BBL, and then there's other stuff I didn't enjoy, like the handling of Trunks and Goten. I just don't understand the point of calling in Earth's mightiest heroes just to make them into jokes the entire time they're on screen. You can have jokes, but when you do it for the entire time they're on screen, they might as well not have been in the fight. It's distasteful, and it's probably annoying for people who are really fans of Trunks and Goten. Truthfully, I've never met any hardcore fans of Goten, but I'm sure they're out there just like your father with the milk. The biggest takeaway for me is how the final fight was won. It was mainly through technique and teamwork. The gang had to band together and utilize each other's strengths to take down their foe. Even Krillin got a moment to shine in the final scene, and yes, that was a pun, but you'll only understand it after you see the film. I love that this movie called back to old techniques from the show. It felt like a love letter to those who have been on this 38-year adventure. It all peaked in the final scene when Gohan pays homage to his real daddy, Piccolo. You just love to see it. But not all is sunshine and farts and superhero. I've got some criticisms, so let's get into it. I actually like the new androids in this film, but the thing is, they're not the true villains. The film alludes to it earlier on, but later in the movie, it pulls the old bait and switch and the true villain, Max Cell, appears. I'm sorry, this was lazy writing. Max Cell is basically a giant perfect cell with red eyes and a bad attitude. I thought this was lazy because Gohan finally got a chance to shine, and what do they serve the protagonist this time as his antagonist? The last antagonist he defeated. Boo! To add insult to injury, Gohan looked identical to the way he looked when he fought Cell as a teen, so it's really trying to lean into that nostalgia. The main difference being is that his hair was silver instead of gold, so I left the theater confused if that was a new form or not. If it is, then that's another problem. More lazy writing. Gohan was so weak at the start of this film that he could barely wear the weighted clothing that he used to train with Piccolo when he was a kid. Now all of a sudden, because his daughter got kidnapped, he can reach a new form knowing that he hasn't trained for years? Talk about plot armor. Boo! Last but not least, Piccolo also got a new form, and I thought it was funny the way that they came up with the name for it. It perfectly fit his nonchalant personality, but what didn't play perfectly is how he got that new form. This man, Piccolo, went to Shenron and wished for him to unlock his hidden power. Boo! This is problematic for a couple of reasons. First off, it's just a blatant demonstration of how lazy Dragon Ball's writing has become. Wishing for power is just too convenient and something I'd expect from Frieza, seeing as he tried to do it in the Frieza saga when he tried to wish to become immortal. Piccolo though, Piccolo is arguably one of, if not the hardest working Z-Warrior. Don't get me wrong, Goku and Vegeta train hard too, but we cannot ignore the fact that they were also born with Saiyan genes that give them a natural advantage. Piccolo has had to work for everything, and it seems like he takes no days off. The opening scene of him training with Pan, plus him criticizing how weak Gohan has become, reinforces my previous statements about his work ethic. So it would have made more sense for him to reveal this new form during the main fight and directly correlate it to his training, since he never stopped training, and then also he barely gets to see Gohan anymore since he's always locked in the room. Gohan would have not known about this form. They could have even used that moment for him to tease Gohan, and then Gohan used that inspiration to dig deeper into his hidden power as he begins to call back when he used to have that dog in him. That would have made more sense than Gohan just randomly transforming. The second reason Piccolo's new form is problematic is he wished for it via the Dragon Balls. That's just not believable based off of his character and everything we know about him. His character embodies work ethic, and I refuse to believe he would have taken that easy route. Vegeta going to Bobbity for that M&M on his forehead would have made more sense. Vegeta wanted instant power because his pride made him jealous of Goku, especially because during that time period, he hadn't fully accepted Goku as his friend, seeing as Goku is the child of a low-class warrior and Vegeta is the prince of all Saiyans. So yes, I've seen and understand some of the criticisms of this film. Some of the writing does feel rushed. The animation is not the best, but I still enjoyed this movie more than Broly, and the reason is because it addresses one of the issues I've had with Dragon Ball. It's become the Goku show. This movie was about the Z Warriors pulling out a win together, and it wasn't solely because of one character's power level being higher than the other. They used teamwork and technique instead. It felt like this film had a little bit more soul to it versus a bunch of muscle-bound dudes screaming for half an hour and just punching each other in the face. If they just clean up the writing a little bit and continue to show love to more characters like in this film as well as in the Tournament of Power, then I'll take that over the other stuff. But hey, I'm just saying.